Democratic Congressman Jim Himes of Connecticut. He's the ranking Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee. He was in the briefing today. Thanks for joining us, Congressman. So part of the briefing included video of the strike that has not been shown in public yet. What was your reaction to that video?
Yeah, Jake, and I hope it will be shown to the public because it's going to be really important for the American people to know what is being done in their name. And, it's pretty easy to get excited about, efforts to take out drug dealers. But the video was enormously, enormously disturbing. And I can't describe it in detail, but to tell you that the initial strike, as you might imagine, when a piece of munitions falls on a small boat, did an immense amount of damage, caused a huge amount of fire. And ultimately, the end result was two individuals without any weaponry, without any tools of any kind, clinging to a wrecked boat, really what looked like flotsam. And we observed them for a long time, and the commanders involved said that they believed that there might be some chance they would be rescued, that there might be some chance that the cocaine on board could be recovered. But these two individuals, to anyone looking at this thing, would say are moments away from slipping under the waves. The decision was taken to kill them, and that is in fact what happened. And that was pretty hard to watch, I must say. Earlier today, you told reporters that what you saw is a direct violation of what is written in the Defense Department manual for abiding by the laws of armed conflict. How so? Well, in the Defense Department manual on the laws of armed conflict, the example given of when you don't engage somebody, the military term is hors de combat, when they're removed from combat, when they're no longer capable of undertaking hostilities or threatening you. The example given in that manual is of shipwrecked sailors. And again, these were shipwrecked sailors, bad sailors doing bad things, making bad decisions, but they were shipwrecked sailors, barely afloat in a vessel that was completely awash. Without any tools. There was no way these two individuals in that moment posed any sort of threat to U.S. forces. And yet, nonetheless, the decision, and again, I'll say it again, the example that is given in the Department of Defense manual is of shipwrecked sailors. You do not kill them because they are out of combat, incapable of further hostilities, and doing so is, according to the manual, a war crime. So you're saying a war crime was committed? Well, I want to be careful with my language here. We didn't get the audio, but that's sure what it looked like to me. And again, I don't want to get into the details, but I want you to imagine two individuals clinging to wreckage in the middle of a vast ocean. Without any tools, without any weapons. Look, if this guy had an AK-47 or an RPG or was, calling in airstrikes or anything else, it would be a totally different thing. These were two guys who had survived a huge military strike, clinging to a piece of wood, and in that moment, subsequent to the first strike, the decision was taken to kill them. Admiral Mitch Bradley, who was at the time commander of U.S. Special Operations, he was in charge of this mission, and also the chair of the Joint Chiefs, General Raisin Kane, they briefed you and the chairman of House Intelligence. What did they say about the mission that struck you as important for Americans to know? Well, they were there to explain this particular mission and to give us some background. They didn't have a good explanation, and I asked this question explicitly for why the rationale for this second attack on the individuals had changed so dramatically. If you'll recall, Jake, in early September, the Congress received a briefing that said that the reason that boat was re-attacked and struck and ultimately sunk was for safety of navigation. I guess the idea was that if this little motorboat had been out there, another boat might have hit it. Now we get presented with a whole other story that is basically designed to, that is not designed to, but that is trying to get us to believe that these two individuals clasping wreckage in a vast ocean were a threat. That's the story we got today. And again, I was very clear with the Admiral that I respect his service, that I respect him, but there's no way you can look at that video and say these two individuals are in any way a threat to anyone around them. Was there anything that Secretary Hegseth had said to them that made them think, especially Admiral Bradley, that they needed to do the second strike or any other further strikes? Well, so the answer to that question is probably no. I asked if there had been a kill them all order, as the Washington Post reported, or whether there was an order to sort of give no quarter. those two things would have been clear war crimes. And the admiral said, no, there was no such order. What worries me, and I'm speculating here, but what causes a man of real integrity and of storied professional history like the admiral to order this strike? And my guess is it has something to do with the Secretary of Defense, who writes a book about how we need a lot less ethics and lawyers involved and a lot more lethality. It probably involves, generals and admirals being fired because they're not towing the administration line. That's a lot of pressure for an individual. So culture and context matters. And I don't think there was. I would have been surprised had Hegseth given the order to kill them all. That would have been just a naked war crime. But the context matters here. And this was a context in which the commanders understood that disagreeing with your superiors probably means you get fired, and that they are looking to stretch and maybe even exceed the boundaries of the laws of armed conflict.
The Admiral and the Joint Chiefs Chairman also briefed the Senate Intelligence Committee. The chairman of that, Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas, was asked about your response to having seen the video. Take a listen.
I didn't see anything disturbing about it. What's disturbing to me is that millions of Americans have died from drugs being run to America by these cartels. Jim may disagree with the entire operation. He may be okay with drug boats running to America, or at least thinking that it's an effective tactic to interdict them. If you think these strikes are justified and righteous, as I do, and I want them to continue, then of course the second strike, when you have two survivors who are trying to flip their boat back over and continue on their mission, remain in the battle.
Your response, sir?
Well, his facts are just plain wrong. This was probably a boat that was maybe 40 or 50 feet long. This is a boat that weighs several thousand pounds and that is awash, meaning it is largely underwater. These were two individuals, they weren't, 15 feet tall. There was no way, and the Admiral conceded this to me, there was no way they were flipping that boat back over. So Tom Cotton's facts are just plain wrong. And look, I don't disagree with Tom that narcotics are a problem. Now, by the way, it's fentanyl that is the big problem in terms of overdoses, and this is all about cocaine. Somebody may explain that to me someday. But no, they were not going to flip this boat back over. There was no way they were physically going to be able to do that. They didn't have radios. They didn't have tools or anything. So, again, Tom maybe needs to look into his conscience and say these two individuals were a threat in that moment to absolutely no one. And so when we have sailors awash in the Persian Gulf, and they're United States sailors, because their motorboat has been machine gunned by the Republican Guard, does Tom Cotton really want the same logic he's applying to these two individuals to apply to what the Iranian Republican Guard might do to two sailors in distress in the Persian Gulf? I think he would probably answer that question with a no.
Democratic Congressman Jim Himes of Connecticut, the ranking Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee. Thank you so much, sir.